Lesson number 1. Finding distressed neighborhoods and homes.
Okay, this is lesson number 1. What we want to do is we want to go out and find a distressed neighborhood, such as the one that we're in right now, so that you can find distressed properties. And then what I want you to do is find out the address of the property. In this case, this address is 345 Curtis, and we want to do the research to hunt down the property owner. I have a system that I'm going to share with you exactly how to do it. And again, this is complimentary. I'm not charging you guys any money. I just want to see you guys win and make some money. First thing is identify a distressed neighborhood. Go out there. Typically in 1 hour, you can find about 50 properties or more. And then I want you guys to write down those addresses so we can hunt down the property owner, try to find out the property for sale so that you can enter into a contract and assign a contract to a cash buyer such as myself. This is lesson number 1, you guys. I want you guys to go out and do it now.
Lesson number 2. How to research property owners.
Congratulations for successfully completing lesson number 1. Now we're going to move on to lesson number 2. Now that you have at least 50 property addresses, we want to find out who owns these properties. The best thing to do is to log on to your local property tax assessor's office. In this case, it's considered the Hillsborough County Property Appraisers. You may even have to go down to the local courthouse in order to gather the database of property records and the owners of these properties. In this case, I'm logging on to Hillsborough County Property Appraisers. Here's the guy who owns the property, and this is his address. He lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Trustee Jackson, that's the site address of the property I looked at. Now we want to send him a postcard, direct letter, indicating that we are interested in buying the property, or you can log into White Pages and find out his phone number to call him, our directory assistance. Do it now.
Lesson number 3. How to send out letters and postcards to potential sellers.
Congratulations on successfully completing lesson number 1 and 2. Now we're going to move on to lesson 3, how to get in contact with the property owner. So once you're able to do the research to find out who owns a property and you have an address, you can now use click to mail. Now this is just one option. The first would be just to write a letter, put an envelope, put a stamp on it and drop it in the mailbox. But if you're going to send out letters or postcards in bulk, you're going to want to know about Click to Mail. This is an invaluable website that you can use. You can upload those addresses to Click to Mail and you can send them out. Now, you can customize your postcards by using the graphic designer to create a postcard for you and upload it to Click to Mail so you can send out, or you can use their letters as well. A valuable site so that you can reach property owners to tell them that you're looking to buy their house. Do it now.
Lesson number 4. How to perform the market comparable valuations.
Congratulations for successfully completing lesson number 3. We're going to move on to now lesson number 4. In this lesson, we're going to do our analytics on the properties that we're interested in buying. I use a service called RealQuest. You can also go to Zillow and use their site. Sometimes it's not as accurate as using RealQuest. You can also, if you have access to the multiple listing service, if you're a realtor, you can also access that database in order to do what is called market comparables. Here's a property that I found, 3618 Sarah Street, Tampa, Florida. I purchased the property for $80,000, and now here are the comps on the property. The comps range from 85, 130, 195, 151. We want to make sure that the value is there before we contract to buy the property. The best way to make sure that the value is there is to do your comps. Because remember, you make money on the buy, not the sell. Do it now.
Lesson number 5. Contracting to buy a home from a seller.
Congratulations on successfully completing lesson number 4. We're going to move on to lesson number 5. This is the buy contract that I use when I'm buying properties directly from private sellers. So you're going to use this with the seller. My contracts are very simple. They're only 2 pages, and I keep them simple because whenever you make a contract very comprehensive and lengthy with a lot of fine print, it discourages the seller from wanting to execute to sign off on this contract. So I keep it very simple so a 5th grader could actually understand this contract. What you're going to notice is that whenever I'm buying a property, I use a $100 deposit, payable in cash, of which the deposit $100. So when you hear people talk about how to get started with no cash or credit, this is the technique that they're using. They're going to provide a deposit of $100, and then you're going to assign this contract to a cash buyer, and you're going to be able to make an assignment of contract fee. We're going to learn about that later on in these lessons. So do it now.
Lesson number 6, how to find cash buyers.
Congratulations on successfully completing lesson number 5. We're going to move on to lesson number 6. We need to now find cash buyers. And I'm going to share with you different strategies of finding cash buyers that are willing, ready to buy your properties. The first one is to attend real estate association meetings like this one that my friend has in Sarasota or Tampa, Florida. You would do the research on the people who have these events in your city. You can also go to Craigslist to find cash buyers, to call all these people right here and tell them that you have houses for sale. You can also Google search it, which is very simple. Google search cash buyers in your city. It would be We Buy Ugly Houses in Baltimore or Miami or wherever you live. You can also go onto my friend Clint Clother's site, Find Cash Buyers Now. It's a subscription site, but they have an awesome database of cash buyers. You can also call all those bandit signs in your area. Do it now.
Lesson number 7. Should I use a marketing fee contract or an assignment of contract?
Congratulations for successfully completing lesson number 6. Let's move on to lesson number 7. Now we're going to identify the difference between a marketing consulting fee agreement and an assignment of contract. We do have the buy contract here for a reason. If you go out and find a property as a bird dog and you're looking to just get paid a fee, you're going to use this agreement, the marketing consulting fee agreement, and this is going to be with the cash buyer. You go out there and find a house. You don't put it under contract using this contract. You just tell him, hey, I got this house 123 Jackson Street. You're going to want to make sure that you execute this contract by signing it, and he signs the contract to make sure that you get paid at the closing table. So again, you only use this agreement if you go out there and find a piece of property and you tell somebody about it, but you want to make sure that you put something in writing to make sure you get paid. You would use what is called a marketing consulting fee agreement. Okay, so that's the contract that you're going to use. Now, if you decide that you're going to execute a contract, because now you're going to be a bit more sophisticated directly with the private seller who has this good deal, then you're going to want to execute this contract as we discussed earlier on in the lessons. And you're going to put down a $100 deposit. Now, here's where it gets good. If you're going to then later assign the contract, and this is what an assignment of contract looks like. You're going to assign your rights in this property to this guy, with the buyer who's going to buy the property from you. So let's say that you buy this property for $50,000. You're going to execute this contract with the private seller, and then you're going to later assign this contract to the cash buyer. That means that whoever buys this property from you, who buys your rights to this property, using assigning your rights to this guy, he's going to pay you a $10,000 assignment of contract fee. So this is what people are discussing when they say you can get started with no cash or credit. You execute a contract using $100 deposit. Let's say you bought it for $50,000, and you assign your rights to this contract to buy this property to this guy who is a cash buyer, who's then going to pay you an assignment of contract fee. Now, I want you to pay close attention to one more thing. If you have a $100 deposit, just in case this guy who you assigned the contract to does not close on the deal, I want you to still be able to make money. Therefore, we're going to make him pay us a $2,000 deposit. That means if he doesn't close on this deal, allowing us to make $10,000, that if we put a deposit of $100 down and we accepted $2,000 deposit, we still made a $1,900 profit. Okay, so let me repeat that. We enter into a contract to buy the property for, let's say, $50,000. I don't have any numbers there. We provide a $100 deposit to the private seller. We execute this contract. The seller signs it. We sign it. And then we assign our rights to this property to this guy. And we're going to execute an assignment of contract agreement for $2,000 deposit. Just in case he doesn't close on the deal, we still made some money. And a $10,000 assignment of contract fee. Do it now.
Lesson number 8, how to do a back-to-back closing.
Congratulations on successfully completing lesson number 7. Let's move on to lesson number 8. First, we're going to go over the buying process just to recap on what we've learned so far. If you just find a house and you're looking to just collect a marketing consulting fee as a bird dog, you're going to execute this agreement with the cash buyer. Let's say you find a house, 123 Jackson Street. You want the guy to pay you $1,000 fee. He's going to pay you the $1,000 fee upon him successfully closing this deal. You're going to sign this market fee agreement. He's going to sign it, and you're going to make sure this agreement is going to make sure you get paid. If you're more sophisticated, you're going to execute a buy contract directly with the private seller. And this takes a little bit more education, but the private seller is going to sell you their property. You're going to execute this agreement with the seller. And let's say you're buying for $50,000 and you're going to provide $1 or $100 deposit. Now, typically, if you're buying a property from a realtor, they're going to want you to provide at least a $500 to $1,000 deposit. But with private sellers, $1 is all it takes to legally type a property, and I typically put $100. Okay? If you're going to then assign the rights to this deal to a cash buyer, you would then execute what is referred to as an assignment of contract. Now, you've collected a $100 deposit. When you assign this contract to your cash buyer, you're going to make sure they provide you with a $2,000 deposit. Therefore, if this contract doesn't close, you've at least made $1,900 profit. And let's say in this case, your assignment of contract fee is $10,000. Now, if your assignment of contract fee is more than $10,000, because typically, there's some people when you go to the closing table, if they find out you're making, too much money, more than $10,000, they may frown upon that. They may say, well, I'm buying the property, you're making $10,000. That's a bit stiff. Would you renegotiate? So in order to avoid that, what you can do is a back-to-back closing. Therefore, the person who you're selling the property to will not even know that how much you assigned the contract for. So let's say you bought this property for $50,000 with a $100 deposit. If you're going to do a back-to-back closing, in some cases may be considered a simultaneous closing, what you're going to do is you're going to enter into a separate sales contract with the cash buyer. So let's say that you bought the property for $50,000. Let's say you sell it to this guy for $60,000, and you're going to have him provide you with a $2,000 deposit. So this is the process of from buying the property directly from the private seller, or just collect a marketing fee, assign a contract, or in some cases, if you're making more than $10,000, go ahead and enter into a new contract so that you can sell this property to the cash buyer. Now, you're going to have two sets of closing costs whenever you do that. You're going to have the closing costs from on the buy contract when you buy the property, and you're going to have the closing costs when you sell the property. And it's just two sets of different closing costs because you are now doing back-to-back closing as opposed to just assigning the contract. But this could be a good way so that you can make more money. So let's say that you bought this property for $50,000 and you did a contract to sell the property for $70,000. You're making $20,000. Now, if you was making $20,000 assigning the contract, maybe the cash buyer is going to be upset and say, hey, I don't want to pay you $20,000. But again, if you do a back-to-back closing, you enter into a contract with the private seller, you enter into a contract with the cash buyer, he will not even know how much money you made at the closing table. Do it now.
Lesson number 9, closing the deal.
Congratulations on successfully completing lesson number 8. Now we're going to move on to lesson number 9. Now that you've been able to successfully identify distressed neighborhoods and distressed homes, you've been able to successfully go out and research to find out who owns those properties. You've also been successful at doing your analytics, contracting to buy, or doing a market fee agreement. You've been successful at going out there and finding cash buyers. You've also been successful at learning how to do back-to-back closings. Now it's time to attend the closing table to get paid. Now this is what is called a HUD-1 statement or a settlement statement. You're going to need to be able to look this over to make sure that you're getting paid at the closing table. If you're assigning a contract, you should have an assignment of contract fee on this particular document. Now that you've gotten to this point, you're going to request either a wire or cashier's check. Do it now.
Lesson number 10, repeating the process.
Congratulations on going through the process of learning how to wholesale properties in your city.
It's a very simple system, especially if you don't have very much cash or credit in order to be able to lock up these contracts with only $1, even $100 to legally tie them up, and if you don't have an advertising and marketing budget. So step number 10 is basically repeating the process. You know, I've taken you step through 1 through 9 in order for you to get your check. So let's just recap of all the steps that led up to step number 10, which is repeat the process and go back to number 1. The first step is find neighborhoods that are in distressed condition, and typically properties that have high grass. Maybe the property looks like it needs a new roof, or maybe needs a new paint job. Primarily, the worst house in the best block is the ones that you're going to be looking for. Step number 2 is to then write down the address of that property so that you can then move on to step 3, doing the research on that property, so that you can send out direct letters, postcards. Now, typically, if you're just going to send out maybe 10 or 20 letters or postcards, you can typically do that yourself. Or you can write a letter that you buy houses for cash, and then, of course, you can put a stamp on that envelope and just throw it in the mailbox. But if you're going to be real aggressive like I know you are, you're probably going to want to have your graphic designer create a custom-made postcard for you and upload it to Click-to-Mail so that you can send it out in bulk. Now, our next step is we're going to, lesson 4 is, of course, doing your comparables. You want to make sure that you know exactly what you're buying the property for, and that there's equity, that there's value in the property. Because certainly there's no investor who's going to buy a property from you if there's no equity in it, because they're equity buyers. So you need to make sure that you do your market comparables, and you can use a service called RealQuest. You can use an MLS. You can even go sometimes with Zillow. Sometimes it may be accurate. Sometimes it may not with Zillow. And then you can also look towards your local property tax assessor's office or property appraiser's office, as it is here in Tampa, to determine exactly what the value is. It typically will have an assessed value, like a tax assessed value, and typically the tax assessed value is probably about 20% below what the actual value is. So those are a couple ways that you can actually assess what the property is worth. But the one that I use specifically is RealQuest, and it's a good service. Then you want to move forward after you know that there's value in the property. You want to move forward to contracting to buy the property. I highly recommend that you get your hands on my contracts. My contracts are about $97. It's a really good $97 investment into your financial and your real estate future. In addition, there's another tutorial that I offer where I'll show you exactly how to write out each of the contracts that I use. And there's about 12 different contracts that I use in my wholesale business that you need to be using. And if you feel like it's going to be challenging to learn how to fill out the contract, I have a tutorial program for only $97. So you get the contract for $97, and you can also invest in me showing you how to fill out the contract for additional $97. In total for both of them, I think it's like $149 or something like that. A very good investment. So because it's going to take a lot less stress off yourself and a lot less brain damage by me showing you how just to fill out the contract very simply. After you're able to get a property under contract, you're either going to, number 1, sell it and then sign the contract, or we're going to move and talk about how you can do a back-to-back closing. I think that's lesson number 8. But also, I just want you guys to be mindful that if you're just acting as a capacity of a bird dog, then you want to use a marketing fee agreement, and that's also in the contracts that I offer to my students. When you're doing a marketing fee agreement, what you're doing is you're just going out there as a bird dog, you're finding a deal, and you're saying, hey, I got this deal. The investor's going to look at the deal. If he decides to buy, he's going to pay you $500 to $1,000. That is not the most sophisticated way to be able to structure these deals. You want to sign the contract or do a back-to-back closing because you're going to be able to make more money as opposed to just $500 to $1,000. But if you was educated because you came through one of my programs, my coaching programs, or if you had a chance to invest in one of my home study courses, you'll learn exactly how to sign contracts and do back-to-back closing, because let's face it, who wants to leave that much room on the table when someone's only going to pay you $500 to $1,000 marketing fee agreement when you could possibly make $10,000 or $20,000, $30,000 if you knew how to structure the deal correctly. So we're going to use a marketing fee agreement when we're just acting in the capacity of a bird dog, but preferably we want to enter into a contract directly with the private seller, and we want to assign that contract to a cash buyer. Or later on, I'm going to talk to you guys real briefly about the back-to-back closings as well. Sometimes they're referred to as simultaneous closings also. Now, how do we find cash buyers? Now that we got the property under contract, how are you going to find somebody to buy the property from you? As we noted, there's different systems out there that you can use, such as Cash Buyers Now. I think it's Clint Clother. He's a friend of mine. Or How to Find Cash Buyers Now. That's a good program. He has, and it's a subscription base. You have to sign up for it. And if, let's say that you're in Atlanta, Georgia, basically you can go to his database, and he'll give you a listing of people who've just closed properties for cash in that particular area within the last 30 days, 90 days, 180 days, even 1 year. So that's a really good program. I'm not getting paid to endorse King Clother's program, but he's a friend of mine, and I'm telling you that the program does work. Or you can just go downtown to your local county clerk's office, property records, and do your own research down there. They're pulling this research from the county clerk's office. You can do the same thing, it's just more time consuming. With his program, it's already there and pretty much done for you. So should I collect a market fee agreement or sign a contract? We discussed that. That's actually lesson number 7. Lesson number 8 is how to do a back-to-back closing. We talked a little bit about that. When you're structuring a back-to-back closing, you basically want to enter into a contract with the seller, and you're going to provide an earnest money deposit. And we talked about that. Remember, it could be $1, it could be $100. It only takes $1 to legally tie up a contract. I typically put $100 on the contracts when I buy them. And then you're going to essentially go out there and find a cash buyer. And then instead of assigning that contract to that cash buyer, you're going to do what is called a back-to-back closing. Therefore, you're going to enter into a sales contract with that buyer. So you're going to execute a buy contract with the private seller and enter into a sales contract with the cash buyer. That cash buyer is going to buy the property from you. So let's say you bought the property for $50,000, or let's say in California it's $200,000. And you are selling the property for $225,000 to the cash buyer, you're going to make $25,000. You're going to have 2 sets of closing costs. You're going to have closing costs when you buy the property, and you're going to have closing costs when you sell the property. Now, depending on what state you live in, depending on the title company or attorney that you're using, you typically can use the cash buyer's money in order to close out on the first deal. The first deal is going to be between you and the private seller. You're going to use the investor's money to close out on that deal, and then the title company essentially is going to allow you to sell that property to the cash buyer. That's how it works. Now, sometimes you may have to get the permission of the cash buyer to use their money to close out on that first deal. It's all going to be done simultaneously, so it's going to be the same within the same hour. So you're not going to be able to get away with closing on the property with the cash buyer's money and then get away with not honoring your word to sell the property to this guy because you used his money in order to close a deal. It's a sophisticated way of being able to structure a deal. It's not difficult. I don't want it to sound like it's impossible because it's very easy once you get all the parties together on the same page. In fact, there's a deal that I closed on. I used a guy's $1 million in order to buy this apartment building. But I told him that, hey, I would like to use your money in order to get the deal done, doing the A to B, which is the private seller to me, and then the B to C is from me to that investor, person who put the money up. It's not challenging. It just may sound like it, but it's very easy. And if you don't get it now, if you decide that you want to sign up for our coaching program, all you got to do is fill out the coaching questionnaire somewhere on this page on KennyRushing.com, and we'll interview you through the process. If you decide to get on board, we'll help you close those kind of deals and other deals within 30 days. That's typically our goal. So that's a back-to-back closing. And when you close a deal, you're going to request from the title company or the attorney, whoever's doing that deal, to either get a wire directly to your bank account. And if you get a wire, certainly your money's available a lot sooner as opposed to if you get a cashier's check. If you get a cashier's check, sometimes your bank may put a hold on that check. So you got to be very mindful of that. So those are the top 10 ways of being able to easily wholesale properties in your city. It's a very simple system that I've been using when I first got started. This is a system I used before I invested any money on, billboards and bus stop benches and TV and radio commercials, because I do all that kind of mass marketing in order to be able to get the phone to ring. And that's what it's about, getting the phone to ring. But you got to start somewhere. This particular easy 10 steps is to show you how to get started in the business without having money in order to advertise and market. Because most people who get started in this business don't have any kind of advertising budget whatsoever. But this is a way of being able to find motivated sellers, match them with buyers, close deals so that you can start generating checks, and then you can use that money to reinvest back into your company, reinvest back into real estate, reinvest back into marketing and advertising so that you can really get yourself going. So what I want you guys to do is go ahead and repeat the process. If you do it, how I identified you to do it here on this particular video tutorial, I'm confident that you'll make money. This is Kenny Russian, and we'll talk soon.